Good morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the weekly energies with today's Monday's Musings on the 9th of June 2025. And to be completely honest, I'm struggling with the light. I'm struggling with the natural light that is coming in through the window in front of me. I've turned off the light of the camera because that additional luminosity isn't needed. There is so much light around me that I can just about see what is going on. Even though outside looks very grey and very dreary, there is a lot of unseen reflections that are occurring that can almost blind us this week to what is going on within. And that is the emphasis. I'm acutely aware that I need to almost not rush this video, but get to the bones of things today. I have a lot going on around me with my home being decorated and a lot of energies coming in and out of the house. So making the most of the gaps in between to do what it is I feel drawn to do and to share. Today, as Jupiter goes into Cancer, one of the biggest emphasis is going to be on how we feel, and that is going to expand for the tool that it is, for the navigational process that it is, but beyond intuition, to the recognition that in acknowledging the many aspects of our feelings and our emotions, we are holding space for a far greater potential to rise, a remembering within us all. And from there, we may find what is illuminated quite difficult in how we have once perceived ourselves. So with this light, this normal light, and I want to say it's artificial light, but it isn't, it's the natural light from outside. With this light coming in, I can see all of my wrinkles, I can see all of my grey hairs, I can see everything that I would have considered a flaw, but actually everything that has been carved into my journey here as a physical being is being supported, it's being almost announced to the world, and it is changing the view that I have of myself as I look into the camera or as I feel into the energies for this week. And we can expect that as we're leading into the full moon in Sagittarius on the 11th of June, we can expect a balance within us, provided we can recognize that we aren't just one version of ourselves. Like every emotion that we feel, be that anger, joy, love, guilt, shame, happiness, whatever we may feel, they're all still part of us. And we live in a world where we are often encouraged to observe our emotions. This week we're being enticed and invited not only to observe them, but to recognize that we are watching ourselves. Yeah, we are watching ourselves unfold, watching ourselves come to light, remembering who we really are. We are creative beings that are here to feel, that are here to expand our emotional wisdom into the world we are part of. Is there anything else I need to add? It feels quite important this week to be firm in your intention. So my intention for this video this week is to look at the energies and how to best navigate them. It doesn't feel necessary to go beyond what we intend to do this week, and to not have boundaries with that, but to recognize where we may stray from what it is we are suggesting we are providing and why we are doing that. And the confusion that can cause, as you can hear in my own words, it can go from very clear guidance to questioning and doubting not only what we offer, but who we are in the long run. Okay. And it is from a inbuilt sensation of needing to move through things, to rush through things, to heal, to separate, to fix, to understand. All of these insights, whilst beautiful, are the beginning of the process. We've gone from Jupiter being in Gemini to Jupiter going into Cancer. We're going from our head into what we now feel. For some, that will be a new terrain, or it may sense and appear as if it's a new terrain, but like the light that's outside, it's natural to us. And what's actually being shifted is the beliefs that we once had about ourselves, or the people we believed we needed to be for circumstances around us. Now, that's not to say that they're not true and they're not part of you, but there's more. There's more. I can hear that comedian, come here, there's more, there's more. And there is so much more. Okay. Energies this week and how to best navigate them. There's many shifts, many tides, many subconscious energies. Not vying for attention, but wishing to flow into the one now. Many ways of seeing things. Many ways of doing things. All now needing to be held by the one version of ourselves, by our higher selves, by our future selves. Energies this week and how to best navigate them. It does feel as if it can be quite difficult this week if we get waylaid into what is going on around us rather than what is in front of us. Okay, energies this week. And that's where the light resides. What is in front of us? What are we actually being encouraged to see, to truly see? Not the things that we may investigate to avoid what we want to see, but what we're actually being encouraged to see. So energies this week and how to best navigate them. I've moved into a house that is number 16, which is, we have 7 of Pentacles at the bottom of the pack, but in this deck, which is the Mythical Goddess deck, it's known as failure. I've moved into a house that is the number 16 or 7, the Tower card, and it isn't exactly what I had planned. It isn't exactly where I saw myself going, although there has been hints if I think about the bigger picture. However, it's a definite small step in that direction. This week we're being encouraged to look at the journey that we have had to get where we need to be, to recognise that each stage is part of it rather than separate from it. Otherwise we do run the risk of not seeing the growth but the failure that is within that. I've moved to the numbers 16, which is 7, which is the Chariot, moving forward in a direction I hadn't quite expected. But in doing so, I'm trying to embrace the wisdom of the Tower. As we move into 2026, we are moving into a change year. We are moving into the Wheel of Fortune year. However, if we don't learn to embrace what change actually means, what that actually looks like for us, what that feels like, even more importantly, and we continue to repress it or force it, the changes that could be a beautiful natural flow and rhythm next year as a culmination of everything that has come to light in 2025 can be quite harsh and abrupt and feel as if they're very Tower-like. It's recognizing the difference between surrender and giving up or fighting, and finding this week a new way of restoring balance and harmony within our own lives. A new way of seeing what is in front of us, of seeing ourselves on the path that we're now on. A new way of letting go of structures that no longer build a solid foundation for us. Now, it's not the obvious this week. Keep that in mind. It's the structures that are hidden, enmeshed, immersed, woven within beliefs and thought patterns that are being encouraged to actually be seen this week, whether that's externally or internally. Now that may lead to it's not a dark night of the soul, but it's a dissonance with particularly spiritual paths this week, a feeling of not knowing our own identity or what beliefs we actually belong to. And it's not that the others weren't right for their time. Things change. We change. And this is a beautiful invitation this week to actually feel into what we now want to take forward. It may not be as obvious as changing a job. It may be what we are, the roles we are playing in that job, the often hidden subconscious stories we are recreating in that job. Go gently this week. Have compassion for your journey this week. I am going to look into the energies this week, but it feels really important to acknowledge where we may be perceiving something from first before we delve into what may need to change or what may need to be shifted or what we may want to walk away from in particular. Acknowledging our own growth before making a decision will be the completion that many seek as we go through this full moon in Sagittarius. If we continue to make decisions and choices from where we once were or where we believe we are, we're reigniting those patterns and we're not actually seeing how much we have advanced and the journey that we've been on. The changes that are happening, although they may seem out of alignment with where the bigger vision was hopefully going to take many, once we can acknowledge how much has shifted within us, we can almost get back on track. That's what it feels like. So whatever situation we find ourselves in this week, what can we benefit from in being there? So myself moving into a home that's numbered the Tower, there's definitely some benefit there in regards to how I cope with change and how I see change, which is actually really deeply instilled in my childhood. Being near the ocean, there is a lot of emotional healing that is occurring and a deeper connection. And I've actually realised I've come full circle. This is a place we were going to live nearly 10 years ago, so probably more than that. Feeling into that this week, seeing where you are as a step, not a stopgap, although I want to say step, it is a stopgap to gather, to collaborate, to integrate the things that have shifted and have changed. Okay, energies this week and how to best navigate them. Grounding is important, really, really important, and may take on a different form than what we imagine. Grounding in the different vibrations that are coming in. Being open to those different frequencies as well. There's a difference between grounding and familiarity. There's a difference between being rooted in who you are and stable in similarities. Okay, energies this week. There's no growth there. Energies this week and how to best navigate them. Okay, so we have the Page of Pentacles here, the maiden beauty. I mean, she's laying there and she's very relaxed and she's very grounded on the earth, but also very watching everything grow around her, seeing the beauty of that. But there's an essence here, an area here of knowing that the time will come when she also must get up. You know, and yeah, having that fine line between slumber and procrastination, that fine line between rest and not doing the best that we can with our environment, being part of that growth as well. Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Overall, I'm very aware that I may need to pause this video at one point. I'm very aware of that during this week, pausing when necessary. Because the external environment may not be ideal, there can be a tendency to rush through what is occurring. Adaptation is key this week. Flexibility is key this week. Overall, we have the Four of Wands. We do actually have completion here. And in this card, it's just a flower unfolding. Reminds me of the sacral, but I can really feel it in the third eye as well. And there's a completion that is occurring, a link that is occurring between the sacral and the third eye, a creative vision that is coming to fruition here. As it does so, as we create change, yes, in between we're going to feel the shifts emotionally. We're going to feel the indifference towards things. That doesn't mean that it's resistance. It reminds me of osmosis. When you have a concentration of one chemical or one substance in the water, more than the other side of things, eventually that pressure, that increase of concentration will change the environment also. We're going to feel that within ourselves. We're going to feel that completion. Something will shift, and that will take time then to integrate into other parts of our physical being, our thoughts, our emotions, our spirit, our energy, and then our physical body. Allowing that process, seeing completion for the process that it is, seeing change for the process that it is. If we could slow down where we were and where we now find ourselves and where we would like to be and break it into sections, we would actually see that there's a pattern, there's a rhythm. And this week, the more we can tap into that, the easier, the more beautiful, the more unfolding the completion will be. My eyes are being drawn to the dream catcher on my microphone, right by my tea actually. And there's a invitation this week to allow the thirst of our dreams to guide us, but not to get out of control. Okay, it's okay to have a thirst. It's okay to have a yearning and a desire. It's not about getting everything done and all the tick boxes. You know, it's that analogy of once I'm here, I will be happy. Once I'm there, I will be happy. Once the world is we will be happy. It's an ongoing process. On the Monday, we have the Queen of Wands, the Maiden Revolution here. And I'm confused as to whether it's the Page or the Queen of Wands. And on the Monday, that feels quite important. There's a integration here between a younger version of the feminine, but also a more mature version of the feminine. But the confusion comes by separating them. You know, as a younger girl, I was always going to be the woman that I am, and I was always going to be the crone that I would step into. They're still part and parcel. It's a bit like the ocean. The drop in the ocean is still part of the ocean. So whatever you find in one drop of water is going to be in the ocean. The emphasis on the Monday is not to separate the energy, but to see they are one and the same, just younger versions, or versions that need to be more integrated, particularly from within. And that's where that, in this card in particular, you can see she's a lot more aligned in her heart and in her sacral. Her hands are forming the bridge. Her hands are taking what she feels and doing something with it, creating with it. So whatever you're drawn to on the Monday, know that the process is about receiving and doing, but it's not separate. It's not about the masculine or the feminine. It's about this continual flow. The creativity is a continual flow. I know that we do live in a world where we say it's a point of receptivity and then a point of doing, but actually there's more there on the Monday, and really tapping into that, really finding your own rhythm there is going to help with the rest of the week, which is actually built up a lot around thoughts and emotions. On the Tuesday, we have the Two of Cups. Here in this deck, it's called Love, and it's two dolphins, and they're very much like the Pisces sign, actually. So there's a intuitive spiritual wisdom coming through on the Tuesday that almost, these fishes are swimming different directions, almost makes us wonder where we are going with this. Feeling that shift, knowing that something has moved, but not quite having the clarity to know what we're going to do with that. That's, again, all part of the process. Acknowledging, like the infinite sign, it's weaving in and around each other, allowing that emotional flow. Let the ideas build. Open yourself up. Does it sing to your heart? Does it make you feel alive? Acknowledging love and emotional wisdom for the deep ancient knowledge that it is, the innate knowing that it is. The dolphins are very intellectual creatures, but they also do so out of fun. So ensuring that you have that balance with the heart, that you have that balance with fun, and allowing that to bring forth a deeper wisdom on the Tuesday in regards to any areas you may feel that aren't quite clear. It's one thing to know things, right? It's another to experience them, to embody them. And that brings forth a greater natural light from within. That's what I'm seeing with myself today. Even though it's dreary outside, the light outside is showing all my wrinkles. It's showing all the experiences that I've had in my life, and they're there to be seen. On the Tuesday, having love and compassion for everything that you've experienced first and foremost, and then allowing the world to see that. On the Wednesday, we have the King of Swords, we have the Crone Visionary. And on the Wednesday, there's a high potential of being given an idea to incubate, to nurture, or acknowledging that that's what you have been given all along. That makes me smile. This idea, this connection, this vision that you have been encouraged to hold all this time. Recognizing you have grown with that, grown with your creations, and finally realizing that actually that's what was being held all along, your potential. So often we get caught up in the idea of wanting a new relationship, or wanting a new home, or wanting a new job, or wanting to create financial abundance, and we get really caught up in the, quite rightfully so, like when we witness our emotions, we get caught up in what it is we're holding and what it is we're manifesting. Come the Wednesday, we're going to see from a different, more divine perspective that what we were holding all along was the vessel that was going to create all of these things, our own potential. And we're being encouraged to open up to that. But first we have to realise that. First, it's very much acknowledging on the Wednesday all the changes that have occurred within us in order to create what we wanted to create from the beginning, which is ourself aligned. On the Thursday, that brings a brand new idea with the Ace of Realizations. A new spark, a new way of seeing ourselves is going to bring forth a new way of seeing anything that we are trying to create, identify, or believe in. On the Friday, we then have the Ten of Swords. So we get this new idea on the Thursday, and on the Friday, it's like, what do I do with this? Well, slow down. Slow down for starters. In this card, you can see that there's a big umbrella here for the smallest amount of rain. Put things into perspective. When we get a new idea, we get a quickening. We get awoken, if you will, from a mental perspective. We can run ahead come the Friday, and from that perspective, things feel out of alignment. They feel as if they'll never be possible. And we can get really caught up in that mindset. Be aware of that on the Thursday and the Friday, because the Wednesday we're being encouraged to look at our potential, to hold the vision we have been given. On the Thursday, that sparks us, that brings us alive. On the Friday, we have the complete polar opposite of it's all an illusion, I'm never going to be able to do it, all of these ideas are never going to come to fruition. They're both valid. They're both valid. When we talk about polarities, particularly in a separation point of view, we don't recognize the deeper wisdom and medicine that is there. They are both valid. When we feel that disillusionment, we're being encouraged to find a different way. When we find that different way, that is going to bring an end to the disillusionment. It's an ongoing process, particularly mentally this week. Although Jupiter is going into Cancer, the new moon's on Tuesday, Tuesday and Wednesday, which gives us the insight that it's love that will lead us forward, and it's an open heart towards ourselves and compassion that will lead us forward. However, we're not just going to suddenly come out of our heads. We as a species have lived that way for a long time, let alone the last year with Jupiter and Gemini. That's how we've been for a very long time. So remembering this emotional wisdom is going to take a process. Is going to take time. There is no need to rush. Put things into perspective. Particularly when we start to tap into our emotions, they can feel too vast or too much if we haven't done that before. So play with them. Oh, what am I feeling here? What do I need to do with this? Bit by bit, step by step. There is no rush. Come the Saturday, we have the Seven of Cups, and in this deck it's called Denial. Okay, so normally in the Seven of Cups we're talking about illusions and we're talking about potentially addictions. Be aware of that Saturday. We may want to numb what is going on, and there's no judgment there. If things are too much, we don't have to do it all in one go. Okay, so being aware of the difference between procrastination It's that maiden of beauty, procrastination and rest. Okay, acknowledging that if things are too much and we don't want to face them, that might not always be denial. We know that they're too much. We don't want to face them. So having that compassion there on the Saturday. Because on the Sunday, we remember that it's about, we have the crone resurrection here, which is the King of Cups. It's about actions that are fueled by our emotions, not controlled by our emotions and not repressed by our emotions, but fueled by our emotions. This is a new way of being. This is going to take time to get used to. Allow things that have stopped us from connecting to our emotions to come to some form of completion first. There is no point charging in with our feelings if there's trauma there that hasn't been acknowledged or held space for or recognized or brought to some form of completion. Bit by bit, there's no point ripping off the scab of a wound. Allowing things to settle this week is really going to be key. So overall, we have 3 sword cards, 2 wand cards, and 3 cup cards. 1 earth card. So the 1 earth card that we have is very important because of everything else going on, that we really ground into our feminine wisdom this week. So we journal, we reflect, we meditate, we be with our emotions, we nurture. Otherwise, there's a real risk of getting out of balance. There's a real risk of it coming forth through mental, I want to say collapse, mental breakdown. It doesn't have to go that far. This is the invitation underneath it all, that we don't have to go through pain. We don't have to burn ourselves out. We don't have to mentally, emotionally, physically break down before we find balance. There's a new way of creating. It's actually an old familiar way of creating that wants to come through. And what happens is when we tap into that memory, we are reminded of all the times that we couldn't, for whatever reason, be that way. And it's that that's causing the knee-jerk reaction. The memory of it, not the way that we create, but the reasons that we no longer do it that way. Now that can go back as far as witch wounds or ancestral healing. And yes, the invitation is there to acknowledge these aspects. However, don't get lost in that this week. Bring it to the now. How does that apply to my life now? Okay, well, an example, I struggle with diets, and I struggle with diets because as a child we ate when we could, because we didn't always know when the next meal was coming. So there's a resistance there for me. There's an indifference there that I'm no longer in that position, but my cellular core is acknowledging that bit by bit. I'm not going to suddenly force myself to get over that, but I am going to be aware of structures that are hidden within structures. And that's the invitation this week, allowing it to unravel slowly, holding space for that, changing actions as they change themselves. There's no point forcing things that aren't ready to be completed, being the vessel for that change. So we have being the mother of whatever it is you're creating, holding them, nurturing those creations, even your future self, incubating that. We have 2 wand cards. Okay, so I have to go back again to how important it is to ground into the feminine this week, how important it is to ground into your body this week, to ground into your emotions this week. It's not just about observing them. I'm a big fan of that, but it's not just about observing them, but feeling them as well. Really allow yourself to feel them in a safe container, in a safe environment. Start small, start small. I'm also being encouraged to acknowledge that it means joy as well, allowing yourself to feel joy and happiness and to let go and to wish and to dream and to hope. There's been a long time of not being able to have the hope, or having hope that has been demolished. It's still there. Allow yourself to dream this week. Okay, so we have 2 wand cards. Completion comes with the maiden revolution. Reinvent what it means to be a creator, a feminine creator, regardless of gender, what it means to nurture and to grow ideas and to bring them forth, what it means to have emotions, what it means to connect to the earth, what it means to connect to anything that you are manifesting. What does that mean? How does that feel? The completion comes with aligning with how you feel. how you want to feel, how you currently feel, the difference in that, and allowing that to flow, to speak with itself, allowing your emotions to have that communication within you. We then have, that's where the union is, we then have 3 sword cards and 3 cup cards. So the creative invitation this week comes from balancing our mind and our emotions, acknowledging the impact that our emotions have on our mind, but also that our mind has on our emotions. And it's not about resisting or pulling apart those two, but working together. When we think something, we feel something. Okay, so how do we choose to then think about what we feel, and vice versa? Because that alignment is what's going to shift whatever we're trying to manifest this week. It is about holding space for the ideas that are coming in and the resistance that we have to them this week. Not about tearing it apart, but seeing it, witnessing it, acknowledging we may want something, but in the background there may be a lot of subconscious beliefs that are just tethering us down and anchoring us and grounding us to stories that we may not think are our whole narrative, because they're not. Emotionally, there's a lot of expansion of the heart being denied. There's a lot of love for the self being denied. There's a lot of joy and happiness here being denied. And I love in this deck how on both sides, with the mind and with the emotions, you have the crone energy. You have resurrection and vision. Resurrecting the mental vision that we have is going to take emotional sustenance and intelligence and wisdom. It's going to take a bit of growing up. It's going to take a bit of acknowledging what we've been through, the lines, the wrinkles, the light, the journey, the path. We're not quite there yet spiritually. We're still in that younger maiden revolution type energy, that fighting energy. And the question this week is, what or who are we really fighting? I'm going to leave it there. I'll see you next week. Take care.